Hi everybody, this is Abigail Rudner here from Big Fun Arts to give you another Fireworks CS4 lesson today. We're going to pick up where we left off in the last lesson, which was we were talking about the PNG file format. PNG standing for Portable Network Graphics, and this format allows the files that are made in Fireworks to contain both bitmap and vector content, as well as HTML information, CSS information, and dynamic information attached to your graphic file. So there's numerous things that we can do with Fireworks, but let's get down into the tools today, and that's going to be drawing in Fireworks. So I'm going to open up the last file that I worked with in the last lesson, and that was the hello PNG document, and I'll just open that right up from my recent docs and begin to play around with some of the tools there are in Fireworks. First thing I'm going to do is show you that these tabby panels here can be torn off, and I'm going to tear off my layers panel because that's all I want to think about right now, and close up the pages and states menu. Move this across here, and I'm going to draw some objects with the vector sets of tools here. We have a set of vector tools, and I'm going to use these vector tools along with some of these select tools. Okay, so I have some selection tools here. This is the main selection tool, and it has a down pointing arrow, which means there's another tool nested in here. This is the select behind tool. I'm going to show you how to use these two tools in this tutorial, in this lesson. And then I've got my sub select tool. This tool, the regular selection tool, is used for selecting whole objects and groups of objects. The tool that lives underneath it is the select behind tool. This is a handy tool for when you have two items that are stacked on top of each other in the same layer and you want to click through down into the layers beneath. I'm going to change that back to the regular selection tool. And this guy here is the sub selection tool, meaning you can select individual points within shapes or individual objects or shapes within groups. And I'll show you what that means next. So I'm going to come down here to the vector tools and just click once, and I open up the vector tool set, which contains the rectangle, ellipse, polygon in the top section above this horizontal line. And then these tools below the line are actually special tools. They're called auto shapes, and I'll get to that in the next lesson. But today let's just right now let's just look at the simple use of vectors, vector shapes. Over here in my colors palette, as well as in my property inspector, I'm going to move my tool palette over a bit here, I can set the color of the fill and the stroke of the vector object that I'm about to draw. And I'm just going to move this around one more time and stop futzing. Okay, just press my fill bucket here, and I can change the color. So now I'll have a shape with a green fill, and if I want an outline or a stroke, I'll click this little well here and choose a stroke color. Okay. Just so you know, this little button here is the default fill and stroke. I'm going to click that now, and you can see the default fill is white, the default stroke is black, and this button here lets you switch whatever fill and stroke are currently in the stroke and fill colors at this time. So when I click the button, you can see now I have a black fill and a white stroke. And just one more time for fun, I'm going to fill the object with white and stroke it with black, and if I wanted to draw the opposite, I would just click this toggle button. You can see now they're switching. All right, good enough. So I'm going to create a vector here, a rectangle. I'm going to click and drag out, just dragging out. If I hold the shift key while I drag, I can constrain or hold the proportion to a square like in Illustrator, and I can also, now that the shape is selected, see that it's highlighted, and I could adjust properties such as the thickness of the stroke and the type of stroke. There's all these many stroke types here. Crazy stuff. And now I've set the stroke to none, and we'll come back and look at some more of these features. So if I want to move the object, I use the regular select tool. I can click off, that's clicking off, and click on. And when I click off, nothing is selected, but notice when I cursor over or mouse over the shape, it highlights. So this is very helpful when you have multiple shapes and you're working with things that are similar or close together, that I can see which shape I could click on or select next. So that I find that to be a great feature. Okay, so right now I have 3 shapes, and they are not a group. They are individual shapes, and when they've been drawn, they actually show up on their own rectangle layer or sublayer or object. This is a rectangle object, and this is also a rectangle object. This is another way to select here in the palette, and they are all within layer 1. Layer 1 being the default layer. You can use multiple layers to design your interfaces, and we will get to talking about this web layer. This is a very magical layer in Fireworks in the next couple of lessons. So these are not a group. I can click on them and change their color here in the Properties Inspector or in the Tool panel. And they have a stacking order, which means the order in which I drew them is the order in which they will lay or layer. And you can change that stacking order by dragging within the layer itself. You can see this blue rectangle went behind the orange one. You move it up there and see, yes indeed, it really is behind. Now, if I click on these individually, you can see I can move them. I could also do a marquee select around them, and you don't have to touch all of the objects. Notice I just have to touch them all, but don't have to enclose them all in the selection. And I can move them. Now I will group them so I don't have to multiple select them. Now they're grouped, and you see in the layer palette, those 3 separate rectangles are now a group of 3 objects. So if I click away, we're deselected, and mouse over, now I have the whole group selected. And this is where I can come in and use the sub-select tool to select an individual object in the group, and then switch back to the regular select tool, click away, and click and drag, we have a group. To ungroup these 3 items, I can choose Modify, Ungroup, move them apart with the regular select tool. Oops, missed that one. And last thing about this tool, the sub-select tool, is that I can click on the corner of an object here and begin moving it. Now when I do this, something happens, and that is that Fireworks gives me this dialog box telling me that to edit a rectangle's points, it must first be ungrouped. Is this a group? It wasn't a group of 3 objects, but what does it mean that the rectangle is grouped? Well, I am going to tell you that in the very next part of this lesson. I'm going to stop here for now and leave that a little bit of a mystery for you so that you can come and pick up in the next lesson, where I'm going to talk more about special group behavior in Fireworks. And I look forward to seeing you there. Bye for now.